Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My screen wasn't maximized. Sorry about that, everybody. How are you tonight? I hope you're having a wonderful day. And we are continuing to talk about love versus fear. Today, we have a show called Guiding You Out of Fear. And we're actually going to share the emotional guidance scale and step by step how we're going to move from one emotion to another, helping you connect and move up the emotional guidance scale so that you can actually be more in charge of what's happening inside your body and inside your mind and inside your emotions. But before I get into that too much, let's meet our wonderful, wonderful co-hosts, starting with Willow, our trauma
Hi,
consultant,
everyone.
and Michael.
Hello, everybody. Welcome.
What's your title? I didn't want to get it wrong.
Opportunity Ambassador.
Oh, right. I should know this. Opportunity Ambassador. Wonderful. And Mr. Freedom Facilitator, Dennis.
Hi everybody, how are you doing?
Please take that instrument back to the store you bought it from because it was not working and try a different instrument.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
That
You
was
didn't
like
hear it?
zero sound.
No, there was
Oh, I'm
nothing.
so sorry. What about this?
That's much
Much
better.
better.
That's more what I expect from the Raising Excellence crew.
For a second, it looked like you just took it and you shook it, and it did nothing.
And
And
Dennis
you're
was
like,
like,
"Hey,
ooh.
like he must have a really good imagination."
Yeah, we did. But we like the music from Mr. Eckert. So today we want to talk about the emotional guidance scale and how we can get out of it. So, hi Kelly. So what do you guys think?
Well, what is the emotional guidance scale?
Oh, it's this picture. Remember I shared it. I'll show everybody. Fine. But then I'd have to go into the whole thing. No. Hang on. Let's not do this yet. You guys wait. Let's talk about moving and why. Okay, I know what I want to say. Emotions are not written in stone. Your emotions are not something that happens to you like a broken leg. The emotions that you have inside your body right now are caused by your thoughts. Am I wrong?
I always say that your emotions are information, not instructions.
I think
Guideposts.
I think that's a good question because you've got feelings, right? And then maybe you're interpreting those feelings as particular things. So I think it's kind of one of those things where it's it might be one versus the other. You might be feeling feelings before you're thinking and then thinking something, or you might be thinking something and then feeling something. So it might go either way.
But feeling something like how does that process go? So say, somebody cuts you off and you have a feeling of somebody stepping on your rights, or you had the right to be there and now they're there, so you have to slam on your brakes and you have the feeling of anger. And so is that like a true self? Is anger the only possible outcome for that situation, or is that just a possibility?
No, it's just a reaction to a perceived threat.
So it's about perceived threat again, is it, Miss Trauma Consultant?
Yes. It always boils back to trauma with me.
Of course, we've
Yeah, well,
noticed.
it might be your it might be your actual reaction. So like your instant reaction is like to swerve, to miss the accident or whatever, and that might raise your blood pressure and increase your heart rate and breathing. But then that might be an interpretation of that other person caused me this fear or this you know so and that could be anger.
So how can we get out of that anger? Is there a way to get out of that anger before we commit to it? Like, because I mean, when so I read this once that when you're angry, the air you exhale is poisonous to small animals. Like your anger actually, I don't know if this is true. I'm just repeating something I read 15 years ago.
Speculation on this.
Speculation. Alert. Yes,
Theory.
but
Long ago.
but apparently but even if that's not true, your anger only increases the hormonal imbalance in you. It doesn't increase the hormonal imbalance in the other person. The other person remains unscathed, listening to Aqua and moving on, and they have no issues. And there you are, steaming and screaming. Next thing you know, you get out of the car and you kick your dog, right?
Well, it
So
is some,
That escalated
it,
quickly.
it, it,
I'm sorry. I have had a lot of instances where I have just been seething when I get out of my car, and the last thing I want to do is walk in the house and kick my dog.
I know I would never kick my dog, but it's an expression, okay? My dog's too cute to be kicked.
well, it is something that you physically can feel. Is not some. It's something harmful. Like if you're aware of that anger arising within you, you can feel that that's something out of balance. That's not healthy for you. But then again, if coming back again to the scale, to the range of emotions that are there, if you would have been like on a lower segment than anger, then anger can be something uplifting too. Like if you were depressive, suicidal, and you're angry, then that's actually like going up on the scale.
Okay, now I have
But
to show you guys the picture because he just
I was gonna say, yeah, they're just signals to me. Like
oh, that's not it. This is it.
in the movie Inside Out, there's a scene where two parts are talking, and one is joy and one is sadness. And Joy's like, "Oh yeah, remember this memory? It was such a great time." And Sadness goes, "Yeah, I remember that. The reason the whole team came over was because this little girl was really upset. She missed the winning shot for their playoff game, and she felt really bad. She felt like quitting the team. So she was sitting in a tree crying alone. And all of a sudden, her mom and dad come over and they ask her what's wrong, and they sit with her and they hold her. And then the team comes over and they realize that she's sad, so they like cheer her up, and they end up like hoisting her onto their shoulders and like, you know, raising her up, making her feel better. And the whole point was no one would have known anything was wrong if it hadn't been for the emotion of sadness. It's a signal sometimes that we need to do something to make ourselves feel better, or we need to reach out. I think a lot of people, and I've noticed like exactly what you were saying with you get out of your car, you're seething and you want to kick your dog.
Somebody else's dog, maybe not your own dog, the neighbor's dog.
But either way, you want to, I understand the sentiment, the feeling, and I think that might be the problem is that feeling doesn't have to come out in an action like that. A lot of people don't separate it.
That feeling doesn't even have to arise in the first place. When
I think it does. I disagree.
Well, okay.
The feeling needs to arise, but you need to choose how you act.
Hang on, because there are a few different things. The feeling that, oh my God, I'm angry because this person cut me off, the initial feeling is more like a signpost, right? It's information. And what we do with that information in the first 17 seconds is really, really key to what happens next, right? So we can diffuse the situation inside our body. We can create an opportunity to go, okay, well, maybe something happened, or maybe they're just an asshole, and maybe I don't need to care, and whatever. We can talk ourselves out of the feeling of anger, and that's cool. But if we don't talk ourselves out of the feeling of anger, that feeling, that negative feeling, is likely to escalate because, it's gonna, just like we said with the thing, that it happens, and then you're thinking about it like, well, how could he do that, right? Say it's something to do with your boss, right? Oh, the boss slammed the door and I was right behind him and he didn't notice me. Well, you know what? He always does that. And he overlooks me for projects. Steve was doing this project I really wanted to do. So now he overlooks me for project. Yeah. So not only he slams the door and he's like totally inconsiderate and he always does that. And now he's overlooking me and you know what? And by the time you get to lunchtime, your boss didn't even see you behind because he was thinking about his wife's cancer. But you have this whole story about the boss not liking you, right? And it's not evidence-based, it's escalation-based, the inner escalation.
I get it. And I don't think that you should escalate it or you should maintain it. I'm saying you don't have to talk yourself out of being angry. That's dismissing your anger. You have to reason with it. You have to say, you know what? That pissed me off. I don't like that person is so inconsiderate. I don't like inconsiderate people. The last time I had to deal with inconsiderate people was boom, boom, boom.
Right.
You're into dealing with, and you will de-escalate once you acknowledge it. I think a lot of people get really caught up in trying to talk themselves out of it, or I shouldn't feel that way, and they don't allow themselves to actually be like, it doesn't matter if I should or shouldn't feel this way. I do right now. I feel this way. Now what am I going to do about it?
Yeah.
You see, I feel that the range of emotions that we're able to experience.
Hang on, let me show the picture again.
It really reflects it reflects that within our human being the range of experience that we can have, and it is the awareness of that which is essential, because if you're being played, so to say, or if your emotions are in control and you're not aware that there's choice and that you have influence on how you can use those emotions and how you can influence where you are on that scale that you're about to show, then then you're in control, then your emotions basically are taking over. But I would argue that the emotions are there to make it to enable us to experience this life, this reality that we're in to the fullest, but that we're, by our choice and through our awareness, that we use them wisely, so that we don't forget that we are not our emotions, but there's something beyond our emotions that is actually really running the show. And there's a quote from Khalil Gibran, which would apply, I feel now, which is, the appearance of things changes according to the emotions, and thus we see magic and beauty in them, while the magic and beauty are really in ourselves. So if you forget that magic, that mystical being that we are, that is who we are, that is within ourselves, and we're taken hostage by our emotions, then we really lose track. We lose track and we get lost in the world.
Yeah, exactly. But like Willow said, we have to meet ourselves where we're at. We can't attack fear with joy. And just to remind everybody, we covered this on Monday, but fear and jealousy and anger and frustration and all of those feelings, they're really in one camp. And then love and compassion and creativity and all the positive, or maybe creativity wasn't a misnomer, but all the positive emotions are in the other camp. So love and all its friends, and fear and all its friends. And a lot of people will say, oh, I'm not afraid, I'm angry. But anger is really an expression of fear. And at the bottom of every anger, there's fear and desperation.
I actually read once, and it stuck with me. It said that fear is not an original emotion.
That's a good one, because I was just thinking of
anger is not an original emotion, because you have to feel fear or love. You have to have either of those before you can be angry. You don't get angry about things you don't care about.
Well, all of the emotions are experienced by whom? And if you look at it from that perspective, then it's like, you were just saying it's, Agnieszka, it's two camps. So, I mentioned some, there's to the left and there's to the right. There's love, there's fear. So if I look at it from, if I stand right in front of it, okay, I see like something on the left, I see something on the right, like two points, so to say. If I change my perspective and I move to the side, then actually it appears that instead of looking at 2 points, I'm looking at just one thing. And if you really look at the range of emotions, like who is experiencing those emotions, it's really just the same one. And then, and I think I was mentioning that on during the last show, then it appears that actually there's no real difference between love and fear, because if love is all there is truly, and the love that is the all beingness, veils itself in fear and in different layers of fear, and in different emotional layers, so to say, that you have to cut through, that you can experience, and that's part of our human experience to experience that to the fullest, and it's part of our humanity. But if we cut through them, then we will actually find that love, and and if we stay and if you live in that love, then we actually see, wow, all the fear and the anger and the different emotions, it's actually just, it comes from that same love that is all over, and it's just a different vibration of that original, whatever we want to call it, love that we're moving in and that we're experiencing right now. So there's no real difference between the two, but it's actually one, but it's different expressions of that one thing that is.
So it doesn't matter if we listen to Aqua or Creed. That's what Tyler said.
I like both.
There you go. So the emotional guidance scale, I'm going to bring it up on the screen again and just talk directly about it for just a second here. So it's not, arguably, it's not possible to go from powerlessness to joy over a second, over 10 seconds, or even a few minutes, right? There's a path that you need to take, and if one tries just to force themselves to feel a feeling that it does not belong with how they feel currently, they're going to feel fake and like it's not working for them, right? So a few people this concept is common to a few of the teachers, spiritual or awareness psychology teachers. But basically moving out of the powerlessness through the different emotions. So it goes powerlessness and then unworthiness, which a lot of us feel a lot of the time. Not a lot of the time, but there are moments of unworthiness feelings for many, many people in our society. And then moves up to jealousy and hatred and revenge and anger, discouragement, blame, worry, doubt, disappointment, overwhelmment, frustration, pessimism, and boredom. And boredom would be the neutral feeling between feeling stressful emotions and feeling joy-bringing emotions, right? And then we go up to contentment, hopefulness, optimism, positive expectation, enthusiasm, passion, and eventually joy. So as we move ourselves from one emotion to the other, basically the technique is to look for a better feeling thought. So your initial thought is, oh my gosh, this person cut me off, he's a total jerk, he's an asshole, and I don't want to, I want to hit him with my car, but I don't want to damage my car, so I'm not gonna, but I want to. And from that, you have control. You have a choice. What's the next thing you're going to take? What's your next action? Right? Just like in chess, just like in many games. What do you do? What's your next action? You can go on. You can say, oh yeah, just like last week when the other red car, they cut me off too last week. Yeah, I remember that. You can say that. Or you could say, what's a better feeling thought?
Well, let me throw in something that Dennis brought up. I think it was the last time, and my interpretation of that is there's a space between stimulus and response, and that is your freedom. And I think it has to do with your own self-discipline, because I think, as we all know, as psychological students, that when we're angry at somebody else for something that we perceive them to do, it says a lot more about us than it does about them. And so it's really once we understand that, like, when these emotions happen, this is really about us and not anybody else. So then we've got to really kind of put our mind in gear and start thinking about, okay, why am I angry, and why have I presumed that other person is doing this to me, when it could be just that, like the kid in the back seat of the car in front of us, the kid just jumped and the parent went to, make sure that he's okay, and he may have swerved a little bit. It has nothing at all to do with us. It has everything to do with them taking care of their, young child or something. And we think it's them trying to cut us off,
We don't actually
Okay,
go
what,
even that far. We just stop at they did cut us off, and we don't wonder usually. Dennis?
I'd agree. I think you hit the nail on the head right there, because it's really a giveaway that we're not really centered in our true self. If you perceive the other as something different than ourselves, if you would be really seated in our true self, then we wouldn't really see a difference in other people. So if you can perceive other beings, whether they're humans or plant or anything really, as something different than ourselves, then that means that we already, not in harmony, not in balance in that was it. So if everything around us is really an expression, is this the same that expresses itself through us, and then there's a different appreciation of the reality that we're in. Then so it's not somebody else, but it's that I am expressing itself through something else, to somebody else, and that's a whole different perspective again. Then because then it becomes actually interesting. If I was, if I was in control of that, or if I actually would have given that situation to myself consciously, why would I give myself that situation? What is the lesson behind that? Why would I put myself in a situation where I get angry because the guy is cutting me off? If that's not really somebody different from who I am, like, what would I want? Am I trying to trick myself into believing that, I'm different than this one? Is that,
See,
another little lesson, another
that's
trick?
really esoteric for a lot of people, though. Like, you know what? That's a lot of thinking, a lot of cogitating before you get to that state, right?
It's a lot of layers.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it's
what I
practice
do,
too.
well, yeah, sure, it's practice. So what I do, I have the rule of 5, right? So basically, I come up with 5 reasons why the person might cut me off. And it's supposed to be more or less like 2 good ones, 2 bad ones, and 1 neutral one. So the neutral one in my books would be the one where the child just, pushed them over and whatever, and they had to grab the kid, whatever, or undid their seatbelt or whatever. Okay, so that's the neutral one. And the good one would be, like their mother is dying in the hospital and trying to get there and just not really paying attention, right? So that's a good one, right? And another one is like, so for example, their kids' recital is tonight and they're trying to get home and they're not paying attention again, right? Because they're emotionally involved. So for me, those 2 would be quote unquote valid or more valid reasons that would make me feel more compassionate toward the person that's cut me off. And then, the third one would be, or the fourth one would be that they're just an asshole, and the fifth one may be that they're like actual psychopaths and they cut me off on purpose because they're an asshole. But see, the thing is, once you come up with 5, you realize that you really don't know which one is true or another one, right? Because all it is like, and I can do this really fast now. Like when something happens, I can go, what are 5 reasons this person did that? Even with my mother, what are 5 reasons she would say that to me?
That's a lot of thinking there too, though.
But I can testify. This is actually, like, I didn't do it as like well thought out. It's not like I was like, all right, I'm gonna get 5 ideas here. But yeah, I do the same thing, and it does work. I will make one exception though. Anytime I see a cop fly by me with their lights on just to get through a red light, pisses me off.
So you just presume
You
that
are
they're
a
doing that
scourge on
wantonly.
society.
You might have to get to McDonald's quick and get some donuts or something.
But what if their mother is dying in the
Yeah.
hospital?
They shouldn't be in their cop car.
If I were a cop and my mother was dying in the hospital, I would take my cop car so I can go through red lights, honestly.
They also have a megaphone. They could be announcing that. My mother's in the hospital. Please move out of my way.
And
no,
I don't
use
think
their
they can
authority.
do that legally.
I don't have compassion for people who use their authority to influence others like that.
Sounds like Willow has an issue with authority.
I have an issue with people who threaten you. Like it's like natural authority. If I have a neurological autoimmune disease. I go to a sleep specialist. I trust their authority, some of them, because some of them have proven to me that they don't know what they're talking about, that I know more about it. But I will trust a true authority. But I didn't assign these people to enforce laws and threaten me if I don't obey. So yeah, I don't have compassion for that. And I could probably do like a list of like 10 reasons why, maybe, but it still doesn't work. That doesn't work for me. That is the exception.
Well, everybody's got their exceptions, you know. For example, don't believe in killing any insects but mosquitoes. I just can't cross that line. I have to kill those mosquitoes. They're just evil. Dennis, you probably don't kill anything, not even mold.
More.
No,
That's a good goal to have, isn't it?
to
Not
not
to
kill
harm
anything.
anything else.
Oh, I'm not
I
planning
hunt.
to change it.
I don't know. I'm like, I don't know how. I don't.
It's all good. It's all good. I still like you, just the
But
same.
I also think there's a difference between like killing and unnecessary, like inhumane. I don't know. That was something that was like, I didn't have the greatest upbringing, but my parents did teach me if you can't shoot for the heart, don't even bother. Don't be that person. You cannot inflict pain on that animal. And if you do, it's your responsibility to track that animal down and put it out of its misery so it doesn't have to suffer because of your stupidity. Like there is a humane way to do this that I have found without feeling guilt, and I'm not speaking for everyone.
But what about
But
that wasp that you hit with a newspaper without thinking about its pain and suffering?
So I actually have a morality, a justification in my mind for this that has helped me because I did feel that, and I was like, I don't like killing things. I don't even like killing spiders, but wasps scare me, and I was like, that's not a good enough reason to kill it. So then I read up all about wasps, and I realized that they are extremely territorial. They don't allow other people to encroach on their space. Well, if they get to do that, then I get to do that. This is my house. Mine.
So
You get out of it.
I used to be very unhappy with wasps. Like I would usher them out of the house, right? And I still do. But I found one day that they ate mosquitoes, and ever since then, my gratitude to the wasp species has been immense. I have a really bad reactions from mosquitoes, so my hatred from mosquitoes comes from my own body not dealing with them very well.
I feel the same way about bats and spiders because of that. As long as they eat mosquitoes, I'm happy with them.
Yeah.
I've got a quote from James Allen. It says, and this is from, he was writing in the 1800s, so he says things like man a lot. But in any case, this is from his book, As a Man Thinketh. Self-control is strength, right thought is mastery, calmness is power.
That's cool.
Can you repeat that?
Self-control is strength, right thought is mastery, calmness is power.
That is wonderfully put. Can you send me the link to that? I want to put that up in with my quotes.
Well, it's a book for you, As a Man Thinketh. I think that sounds like a good book.
He's got a bunch of books, and they're all good. But that is a pretty much summation of what we're after here: is take control of your mind, take control of your emotions. The more you're able to control yourself, the more powerful a person you are, and certainly someone that's calm in all occasions is really, someone that's displayed self-control.
That takes me back to the story that we were talking about Monday about the wolves, and how the original story was the one that everyone knows is not the original story. But the component of the original story was that you actually have to learn how to work with both of them and master both of them. That's just what that made me think of. Like, you have to
So
You have to learn how to
wrangling.
master your emotions instead of you can't you can beat a dog into submission, you can break a horse and you can break a human, but is that really what you how you want to train yourself? Is that really do you want to be that kind of master of yourself? Because that's the only person you get to be a master of.
Well,
Yeah.
when you said calmness, then I can really that really resonates with me, because if you if your mind kicks in and all of a sudden, oh, why did he cut me off because of this and this and that? Oh, I don't like the cops and I don't like this one and the bees and the wasps. Blah, blah, blah. Then that's not calmness to me. So that's like, mind kicking in and this and that, and you get triggered, and it has to do with the past, with past associations that you have, and with things that you experienced, and that's everything but calm. So if you can rest in that stillness within, and from that, just be aware of what's happening. Okay, he caught me. Okay, oh, that hurts. Or this is what's happening right now, and you stay in that moment. Then I feel that is also something, how you can really enter that. It's like stay in the moment. Stay with what is. What the isness of that moment, and don't go anywhere else. And stay in the calmness and in the stillness that you can find in each and every moment, instead of like getting drawn away by the mind
By the
clutter.
fear of wasps and scorpions.
Well, that's the kind of the conflict of trauma is you're in a constant state of trying to not be in the present. Because that's really being in the present means you have to face unbearable experiences. And until you have the tools to learn how to you feel comfortable bearing it, I don't think that your mind or your body will allow you to.
Well, that's if you associate with the mind and the body, right? So if you're in
Ha-
your body and in your mind, and if that is who you perceive you to be alone, then yeah. But if you can take a step back from that, and can rest, or can be still in that which is expressing itself through the mind and through the body, then that's a different way of entering it, I feel.
See, I actually just realized that we have two different definitions because when you asked that question, when you were like something about perceiving with the mind and the body, I'm like, how else do you how do you like it just didn't my mind did not make sense to me. I'm like, that doesn't click. I don't understand how you can perceive anything without associating it with the mind and the body. And I realized that I associate the mind with what is going through, and my mind is either trying to control it, but I don't associate the things that are going through with me. That's not my mind. I have my mind who's like it has the stuff that's going through it, and then my body that has the stuff that's going through it. But I don't ever associate the stuff that's going through it as me.
But that's
That
inspiration. That's the divine breath going through you.
I was gonna say, but that makes sense because that is even when you say it's the divine breath, it's not my divine breath.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, but
It
it's
is
not
your
mine.
divine breath.
It's not mine. It's not exclusively mine like my body is. No one can experience my body and my mind like I can.
It's your particular personal version of the divine breath.
Yeah, it's your personality, your ego, right? Which has its place and which is there because it's through that you enter these realms, that you experience that, right? With your fears and with your mindset and with your expressions and with the specific with the emotions that you're easy to get triggered by or drawn into. But what I was trying to hint at is that that is a part of you which is important, has its place, but there's something besides that as well. And if we get drawn into believing that we are that person, that personality, that ego, then then we're not calm, because then we are drawn to left, to the right, and then we are associating with whatever emotions, for example, or whatever thoughts, whatever mindset, then we associate that and we attach to that. So if there is a way of detaching from that, and that doesn't mean that we don't feel it and that we're not not like the cops, or that we're not getting triggered by the wasps or whatever it be. But we can perceive that. We can see, okay, there's somebody here, there's something here that is triggered by XYZ.
Okay.
And you don't have to change it, you don't have to negate it, or to deny that it's there, but you just are aware of that, and
When
then
I
you take it from there.
when I put it in the context of IFS, what it sounds like is when you're experiencing all of your parts, and all of a sudden you feel angry, and you have to ask that part, say, okay, angry part, I acknowledge that you're angry, and I'm going to say something about it. We're going to talk about it. But I can't do that if you're holding the reins, and you need to take a step back. And then that anger has to take a step back and allow you, the self is not the ego, really. It's the ego is, I think, is a protector. But that's what that made me think of, because you do actually have to ask your parts when they're overwhelming you with whatever emotion or whatever constriction, whatever they're trying to do. You do have to separate yourself. But it's strange for me to hear the word separate, because I think like completely disconnect. And in reality, you're not disconnecting. You're like, my definition of separate, or my connotation of separation, my association leads me to believe complete disconnect. That's where I was really thrown off. I'm like, you can't disconnect from your, like, that's all supposed to be intertwined. You can't really disconnect, but you can take a step back and separate yourself from it while being in the same space.
Maybe you don't have to disconnect, but maybe it's like if you picture, a drive in a car. So if it's a really nice car, one of those modern cars where it's like, oh, you just blend in and you feel that you're part of that car. So when it's troublesome, or when trouble is coming, that means, say, that you associate with the car, that you think that you are the car, but you're not the car, you're the driver of the car. So if you feel that you are the car and you identify with the car, then whatever happens to the car is like, oh my God, it's not a scratch in the car, but it's a scratch in you. It's damaging you. But if you can see that, okay, well, this is my body, but I'm not the body. I'm driving the body. I'm not my emotions. I'm actually experiencing those emotions. I'm not my thoughts, but I'm experiencing those thoughts. So who is the one who is experiencing all of that? And then that doesn't mean you have to separate yourself. It just means that you realize that you're something beyond that. So it's not to negate it. You don't have to say, oh, I'm not that, and you try to, because it's there still, but it's not all of you. Maybe it's even the least of who we are.
I'm actually reminded of little old Southern women who cook for everybody, and if you don't like the way that they cook, it's like a personal slight, like you just don't like them. I've known a lot of Southern women that are like that, even myself included. When Kurt like first started like being like, oh, this is, okay, I was really upset. I was really offended. I was like, am I not cooking good enough for you? Like, this is a major part. It took me a while to realize that it was just personal taste, that it had nothing to do with my character.
I know I have to battle with my love of okra because Eric does not want to eat it.
I've got another
Adam?
quote that I think summarizes what we just talked about, and it's another James Allen quote, believe it or not. In fact, I got.
Oh, by the
I
way,
got another
Adam,
quote.
hang on,
Yeah.
just before.
I was gonna say, Mike, Adam is complimenting you on your last quote, so I think he would really like to hear.
All right. This is James Allen. He says, a man's mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind.
That's cool.
That was also really powerful.
Can we have that quote too in the group
Yeah.
chat? So I'll list it underneath the episode.
So Adam James also said, this has been a really helpful talk for me so far. I've heard these ideas about ego, internal family systems, and such in bits and pieces. Great to hear you all attempting to synthesize parts of them.
And immediately my ego was like, what do you mean attempting? We're doing it. We may not be doing it the way you would do it, but we're doing it. Darn it.
I have a part that I haven't quite named. I don't know which part it is. But right now, it's like a little like light bulb that just went, woo, like glowed, like, yay.
Nice. So where we at in the talk? Oh, emotional guidance scale. Let's show that again because we haven't shown that enough. There you go. Emotional guidance scale. So you have to go step by step by step up the scale instead of trying to make yourself go directly from powerlessness to joy. Going step by step by step allows you to be more comfortable with moving your mind through the scale. Did that sound pompous? I kind of felt like it sounded pompous.
No. I found that when you say a truth that you know is true, but you know it's maybe not going to agree with some people, it feels pompous. It actually has a feeling in your body. You're like, am I being pompous? No, maybe.
So, one more thing about love that Deirdre and I talked about, because she's moving right now. She can't be here. She's probably watching somewhere. But we talked about earlier today about how we're all spread all around the globe. But yet this show is about sitting in the living room, essentially, and talking to each other. Except for our living room is the globe. And the way we're spread out around the globe, from Australia to Germany to Mexico and Canada and America, United States. It's like a big hug on the earth. Have you guys considered that? That's love. That's love. That's what that is.
You know what I love?
What?
That you corrected America to the United States. I really appreciate that grammar. I like that.
It's a European thing.
And a hug is with your arms. Your arms are at the height of your heart, so that's your center right there. That's where the woman's breasts are, which is that part through which the baby is nourished when we come forward. To these realms, and that is where your heart center is. So that hug, that picture of a hug, is something very strong, very powerful.
So if you actually drew this person on the globe,
in times of social distancing,
if you actually drew this person on the globe, you, Dennis, would be the right hand, Deirdre would be the left hand, I would be the head, Willow and Tim would be the boobs, and Michael is like the torso, the rest of the torso. Anyway, do you see it? Too obscure? It's like
looking
a person hugging
torso
the...
Abstract thinking.
Too abstract. Sorry about that. I'll stop.
Well, I was going to add on to what Dennis was saying about how, like, that is where, children are nourished. Like, it does, and, like, it has some symbolic meaning, the heart. But it's also, it's where you hold someone when you want to comfort them. You hold them close to your upper body. And it is, if you don't have someone to actually give you the physical hug, putting yourself in the corner, putting your back in the corner, and then holding your arms like this will physically calm your nervous system and turn off the amygdala hijack. It's one of the things where if you can't stop thinking of it and you can't do anything about it, one of the best things is to go get physical soothing, and that is the number one best thing. It automatically just calms you down and resets everything. So I really think it does have a lot more symbolic meaning than what we are led to believe. We're often led to believe that physical comfort from anybody is a sign of weakness.
And now it's a sign of disease too.
Yeah, or shady behavior.
That's the germaphobe.
Right.
Phobia being fomented these days, I think. Because, the power of touch is powerful. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
That is true. I was going to say, I do have another story, but that...
Go for it. Go for the other story. Go.
Well, I went to beauty school. I'm a beauty school dropout. Go ahead, cue the music. Go ahead. Everyone else does. But I couldn't tell you how many times. I really felt awkward the first couple of times until I talked to a teacher. Because I had to go to a teacher, and I was like, why do these little old ladies, and sometimes little old men, but I kind of understood that. But they'd make these sighing sounds, and they'd just be like, oh, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why are you making all these sounds? I don't understand. And I talked to my teacher one day, and she was like, well, you have to think, a lot of these little old ladies who come in, they don't get visitors. They live in nursing homes. Their children don't contact them. And so for some of them, coming to the hair salon and having their head touched is the only physical contact that they have. And after that, I was much more compassionate and comfortable because I was like, of course you need physical contact. Let me scrub your head for you. I'll do it. I have no problem. But it literally was like heartbreaking where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that if you don't have physical touch in your home, you're going to seek it out in other places. And there's not many public places where you can go and like be physically touched anymore.
That's funny. When you first started talking about being in beauty school, I was like, you're like the last person that should go to beauty school. You don't care about trends and fashion and the latest eyeliner. I can't even imagine you talking about what eyeliner color would be better. I mean, for Halloween or for fun, maybe, but not like for serious day to day. And and then as soon as you said that thing about touching and under being empathic toward old ladies, I'm like, oh, that was your gateway drug to being a therapist. It's halfway there.
Yeah, it actually was. It actually was. And also the biggest gateway drug for being a therapist is being a beautician, because dear God, do they tell you all of their secrets? Oh man, some of the things that I
That's what
have
the
heard
CIA
come
are,
out of my
right?
client.
There were movies about that.
Sometimes you're like, you know more. You hesitate to do, have couples come in because you're like, are they gonna ask me questions?
What should we do? Get a divorce or not? But my gateway drug to therapy was IBM help desk.
Do tell.
I wanted to help people, and I was in the corporate world, so that's like that was like I went into my like agent who like got me jobs and stuff, and I said, I'm tired of this oil and gas corporate stuff. I want to help people. She's like, how would you like to work at a help desk? And I even took a pay cut to go there because I was like, what, that sounds like more meaningful than the oil and gas jobs I had until now. It was fun. I was a coordinator soon after, so that made it fun. But it didn't help me help people because resetting somebody's password every Monday is not helpful.
I don't know. I've had some useful outlets of anger at bill collectors.
Yeah,
Or
but
just,
but in that case, I was on the receiving end of the anger.
I do feel a little bad for some of those, but I used to hold my anger in until Monday morning when I had off and I'd do all of my bills. I amazingly got all of my accounts like straightened out. No one ever messed with me. They were all super, like everyone was super nice to me after a while, and I was like, oh, okay. Now you know I'm serious. No one ever messed my bill up after that.
Coming back to the heart center or the heart chakra.
Hang on. Before you go to the heart center, Adam says he loves hugs, and this whole show is about a hug for Adam. So,
Oh, sweet.
We love you.
Sending back a big hug to everybody.
Yes, Sam.
So I think what is remarkable about that is that is really the center, that is seen in yogic science as the center of our being, in the center of love, in the seat of our true self, really in the heart. And it's remarkable also that is, as it is the center, it is in between, the lower and the higher realms of our being. There's the more physical body-centered energy centers are, below that, and the more, you would say, spiritually inclined centers, they are above the heart. And so I thought that was remarkable as well. And to be in the center, to be in the middle, where you have, again, the breast, the chest, the arms, the hug, it is something remarkable, because it doesn't seem as if that was put in place without, how would I thought, without a design, or without a great designer, designing it without purpose, so to say. There's purpose in that, and reason for that, I feel. And for me, coming back to the theme of today, which is guiding you out of fear, the simple, straightforward, cutting through everything for me would be to just ask yourself, who is experiencing that fear? who is having that experience of fear right here and right now? And I think following that question, and maybe you don't, some questions you don't even have to have like a straightforward answer, but just asking the question itself will kind of lead you where you want to be, and will be enough of that. But for me, that is really, that cuts through everything at every moment. Like, oh, who's experiencing the fear? It's like, oh right, oh hold on, like I'm not the car, I'm not the suit. I'm actually the one who is wearing the suit. I'm the one who's driving the car, so okay, so that does it for me. And that would be a simple, straightforward thing, but it will take practice to be aware of that. And it's certainly just one of many ways how to get out of fear.
Well, for yours, there needs to be a certain amount of self responsibility and feeling, like that. I don't know. Sometimes if I'm moved by emotions, I might need a little bit less.
So I have a follow-up question that might, in my mind, it helps clarify that if you don't have the wherewithal to realize that you and the car are not the same thing. A way to be able to recognize if you are the car or if you're just in the car is when you ask, who is afraid? And then you take a deep breath, and there will be a number that pops up that is not your age. You need to listen to that number. That's that part telling you. And your mind is going to want to say, no, like, I am 29 years old. Of course I'm 29. Why are you asking me this question? But if you stop yourself, you take a breath and you listen, there will be another number in there that'll be a much younger, or even usually, I don't know why it would be an older number, but I'm not going to say that it's not a possibility. Usually it's a younger age. And then you start asking that part, okay, do you know how old I am? And they'll probably ask you the same thing, like, what do you mean how old I am? You're the same age as me. We are the same person. And then you kind of fill that part in on how old you are, on the history of how you came to be this old. And you kind of wait for that part. Sorry, my body is like not liking what I'm saying because I'm like all of a sudden just shivering and trying really hard not to like let it show in my voice. But yeah, it's insane how often you don't realize you are blended with a part where it has the reins and you're in the car, but you really do think you can't look around and say, oh, I'm in the car. Okay. Because you don't know which car you're in. There's a bunch of cars. You have a whole garage of cars.
That's it. Deep silence. She shut the room down.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
that'll
what
be
I
a
like.
wrap.
It's powerful, right? That to realize that our past experiences, our like our inner child, our childhood is influencing, and is, like you said, it's having the reins in its hand, in the hand, and it's like guiding the carriage, is guiding the is steering the car, so to say. And to realize and to be aware of that is already like a huge step forward, of letting go of the illusion that we actually running anything. The we that we perceive
But
ourselves to
then
be in that moment.
when people perceive that their inner child is driving the car, sometimes they might feel like angry and want to punish the child, and no, we're not going to be childish, we're going to be adult. But in reality, that whole adult thing really doesn't exist. It's either self-aware or not self-aware, and that's all
It's
you
just a
can
different
be.
it's a different personality, right? So it's also just another it's just another car. It's maybe a smaller car in that comparison, but it
Yeah,
still
and
is not
without
that.
crayons. Michael, what do you have to say for yourself about this topic?
Well, I've got one more quote. This one's from
You're just
Marcus
full of them
Aurelius.
today, my goodness.
Yeah, well, they just pop up in front of me.
Will you have
This
some
one
kind of
is
a
this is
slideshow going on where you're like, stop at the good one? I'm joking, sorry.
well, it just occurred to me when I was looking up some quotes because I heard something that and this kind of goes back to that thing about being calm. But this is Marcus Aurelius, and you remember this is his meditations, and this is really his own book to himself. He didn't write this to anybody. He wrote it for himself as a reminder. And so this is what he says: to live life in peace, immune to all compulsions,
Let them scream whatever they want. Let atoms, let, let animals dismember this soft flesh that covers you. How would any of that stop you from keeping your mind calm? Reliably sizing up what's around you and ready to make good use of whatever happens. So that judgment can look on the event in the eye and say, this is what you really are, regardless of what you may look like. Why adaptability adds, you're just what I'm looking for. Because to me, the present is a chance for the exercise of rational virtue, civic virtue, in short, the art that men share with the gods. Both treat whatever happens as wholly natural, not novel or hard to deal with, but familiar and easily handled. I think that I know it's quite a bit there, but I think he says it so well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the school of thought that he's associated with, or that he represents?
He's the figurehead for the Stoics, or the philosopher kings.
Something very powerful to look into, which gives in itself a lot of advice and food for thought for leaving the realms of fear.
Well, next week is not taken yet. You could do the Marcus
Yes, it
Aurelius.
is.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah, it's you. Then the week after that is not taken yet.
Look fun.
Half my brain is like, why? Why did you just do that?
Oh, because you're learning from me.
I'm like, dang it.
So we're building this egregor for raising excellence, right? And what an egregor is like a team spirit. It's like the coalescing energy between all the people that are involved. We've been involved for a few months, so there are certain ideas and rules and things that are floating around between us. So that energy is becoming coalesced in a way that it pulls up everybody into this standard, I guess. And so now you're becoming eager for homework, just like me. You're welcome.
Yay.
I should have had that cued song. Oh no, or we would get flagged on YouTube again. We were already flagged yesterday.
But you're triggering the inner child with the word homework. You have to find a better word for that.
Inner child and homework.
Associated with that.
Do we have an exercise this evening?
Oh, well, the exercise is just to use the emotional guidance scale. We're going to include the link to the image in the description of the show when it shows up on YouTube, whenever that is. And we'll include Mike's quotes. And if you want to share your quote too, I'll put that in the description. Or if you guys want to put something in the description, you can always log in as Raising Excellence and do that yourself too. But yeah.
How are we supposed to use? Are we supposed to document if we felt some way and how to move out of it? How exactly are we supposed to use this in an exercise?
I just think it's a tool, not necessarily an exercise, right? And it's a tool. Think about how many tools we shared today. We shared the 5 thing. We shared the who's speaking and how old you are tool. We shared the dentist, the who's actually experiencing this anger. Is it me or is it the vehicle? And so there are a number of tools we discussed today, and emotional guidance system is one of those tools.
So we just use them as an assessment system. Okay.
Well, as a crutch, I guess.
Well, I guess that would be the exercise. Use these tools as a self-assessment to see where you are, to see that would be the exercise. To
use these tools to get away from fear and move into love, because experiencing fear, unless your life is actually threatened, does not benefit you at all. It's detrimental to your health. It's detrimental to your skin. It's detrimental to your hair and nails. It does not make you calm. It makes you mean to your family. And you know what? And there's a habituation. It is a habituation of stress. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and yeah, sure, she has a stressful position, but she's not really fazed by her position, right? And she told me she's been stressed this week. And I mean, this woman piles on her, like on her table a lot. She's like the director of something, and then she has like a volunteer group, and then she's doing her master's, and then she has like grown up kids, but she still cares for them a little bit. So there's a lot on her plate. But she said, oh, I'm stressed. And I said, you're not the type of person to be stressed. Why are you stressed? And she's like, I don't think I'm really stressed. I'm like, well, so why did you tell me you were stressed? She's like, I think it's because it was expected of me. Because in my situation, it's expected of me to be stressed. And I'm like, but are you stressed? She's like, I don't think so. I'm actually quite happy. I like to be busy, and I like having all these things to do. And so she was talking about being stressed as a habituation, repeating the things that she hears on the radio and around her at work without actually it being her actual feeling. So I think all the tools that we have today, we can just make sure we understand what our actual feelings are, what are somebody else's borrowed feelings, learn the difference what's real and what's perceived. And hopefully the tools will illustrate that a little bit or help you use.
That opens up a whole different box right there of, of our emotions being hijacked or being used by outside forces, of us being influenced by something from the outside. And sometimes you have forces, you have people, hijacking that and using that against us really.
But thank goodness there is still tomorrow. Because we can talk about that tomorrow, about hijacked. It's still love versus fear. We're talking about it. We have a special secret guest who is joining us tomorrow, but I'm not going to tell you who it is until tomorrow. So you have to tune in at 7:30 Eastern.
I had another quote that had to do with trying again tomorrow.
This description is going to be full of quotes. Go for it.
So this is one that I shared on Facebook from the Gentle Mama. I don't really know who that is, but she sounds amazing. It says, if you're having an especially tough day with your kids, let them know. As you tuck them into bed, say, today was rough. We will try again tomorrow. Kiss them goodnight, remind them of your endless love, and give your heart a rest because not every day can be easy. And we will have days that wear on us. Be gentle on yourself, be gentle on your children, and just try again tomorrow.
Nice. Well, that's what exactly the emotional guidance exercises are all about. It's not going to work from the beginning necessarily. The 5 options thing may seem confusing or overly heavy, but when you're sitting there in traffic and there's nothing better to do and the other stuff is not working, you might as well come up with 5 options, Just try all the different techniques, see what works for you.
Yeah, I think it's a great exercise because it takes you away from the notion that there's only this one view that you have right now that you're kind of locked into, and that's obviously not helping because you feel anxious and you feel you don't feel joy. So might as well try a few other options to see, and even if it's just for the sake of realizing there's different ways of looking at that.
And it's back to the backpack, right? Because, those bad experiences that we put in the backpack and wait till later, right? So that's a perfect example. Somebody cuts you off, you pull off the backpack and you're like, and there was somebody who cut me off yesterday too. I'm going to rub that all over myself. And you know what? Last week, there was that lady. She was really mean. Let's rub that there. You know what I mean? Rubbing it all over yourself. Like, why? There's no need for that. There's no need to feed the fears. Don't feed the fears. Don't feed the fears. So there. I keep flashing that picture today, hoping to.
I saw it a couple times. On that note, we're about 15 minutes over.
Well, we should go then. Not really, because we started late, but we should probably go. But we'll be back tomorrow. And we'll have more tea and more conversation and special secret guest. I think it'll be cool.
It usually is.
So, I think that Michael, do you have any announcements at the end? Like you do some kind of a thing usually? I'm somewhat confused.
Well, I would just say thanks to the audience for staying with us and giving us their attention and, of course, their time. And we are on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 7:30 Eastern Time, p.m. And I think those are the major things, right? And also we've got the logical fallacy of the week.
Tomorrow.
Or
today. No, it's Thursdays. Isn't it Thursdays?
On Thursdays, yeah.
Yeah. So that's tomorrow. And a special secret guest. And so that's all happening tomorrow. And we delve more into the emotions that are maybe not coming from the inside, but coming from some other outside source. Just like my friends who thought she was stressed when pressed, turned out that she wasn't really stressed. And trust me, she wasn't intimidated into feeling not stressed. I just asked her, are you really stressed? And then when she stopped, she was like, no, actually, I like a little pressure. And I knew that about her. So she doesn't get stressed. Besides, she was just kayaking with her sister. So how could she possibly be stressed? Anyway, I'm going to play the outro now. You guys have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
We should remove the music from the